Hi, I'm Joe Iovino with United Methodist Communications and UMC.org, and this is a special edition of Get Your Spirit in Shape from the General Conference of the United Methodist Church in Portland, Oregon. Today I had the privilege of meeting Hannah Foust. Hannah has spent much of the last 2 years raising money to have wells built in West Africa. She spoke on the floor of General Conference on Friday, May 13th. She was part of the Connectional Table report, and she told her story. I sat down with her for a brief chat after her speech. Oh, and did I mention, Hannah's just 14 years old. Hope you enjoy this. You talked about building wells. Tell me a little bit about that ministry.
I started this ministry when I was about 11.
And how old are you now?
I'm 14.
14. And what grade does that put you in?
8th. I'm going to 9th after the summer.
Oh, wow. Okay, so middle school there. That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. I go to Creekside Middle School in Carmel, Indiana. That's right next to Indianapolis.
Besides building wells, what do you do for fun?
Well, I play several instruments and hopefully will one day incorporate music into my ministry.
How did you get interested in raising money to have wells built in Africa?
I saw this video on Facebook and I saw the people in this video and my heart just broke and I knew I had to do something. And so for the next, I say 2 or 3 years, I started doing yard work and housework and just anything I could do to raise money for wells in Burkina Faso because of their lack of clean water. And I've raised enough money for about 3 wells now and have gotten 2 of them over there.
How much do you need per well?
$2,000, but it also provides enough clean water for up to 1,000 people, so it's really just $2 per person.
But if you've done that 3 times, that's
$6,000
$6,000 that you've raised. And you said something on the floor about having inspired 13 more?
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
Well, people who have heard my story, they've decided that they want to do something like that, and so they've started well projects of their own and have gotten up to 13 wells. Then there are the additional people, like my little sister actually wants to start funding for orphanages in foreign countries as well. And so there are many different people who have been impacted by that.
Yeah, so it's not just wells, but you've inspired some other movement and some other things happening as well?
Definitely.
Okay.
It's really cool to see how God can work through a 14-year-old girl and make people truly see that they can make a difference in the world.
I heard someone say earlier that you felt called to be a missionary at maybe 9 years old?
Yeah. My mom was the youth pastor at our local church, and I just remember seeing the teenagers come to our church with these stories that broke my heart, and I wanted to do something to help not only children in America who experience these kinds of problems, but children all over the world. And so I felt, at first I thought it was a calling to be a pastor, and then I realized that I had more of a mission-based calling. And so by the time I was 9, I had decided that I wanted to be a missionary.
What do you think that's going to look like in the future?
Well, I've been looking at a lot of different ministries that will allow people straight out of high school to go into the mission field. And I've been looking into that, as well as looking into maybe getting some background in psychology, because in countries like that, they focus on a lot of the physical needs, but not the mental and emotional needs in mission work. And so I think that there's definitely ways that I could help with that.
People struggle with, what am I meant to do with my life? And you had it at 9. How do you explain, I knew that was God?
I just remember every time that I had heard something about someone was going through a rough time, or there was people in foreign countries that needed help, I just felt like I had to be there. And I felt like inside me it was so strong that it couldn't have just been my own willpower wanting to do that. It had to be God telling me that that's what I had to do with my life.
Had you thought about what I want to be when I grow up before then?
Yes, I originally wanted to be a pirate.
Okay.
So then I went on to thinking, maybe I could be a doctor or a police officer, like your classic child does.
Sure.
So there were many different job choices that I had before I was 9. Veterinarian was a big one. I wanted to work with puppies, but I I had the idea of mission work, and I never let it go.
You talked in your speech a little bit about how the church has supported you and inspired you.
Well, like I said, I grew up in our local church where my mom was a youth pastor, and the adults in that church, they treated me like this is a mainly older congregation, so they treated me like, they were my grandma and grandpas. They just loved me and my little sister. And so we really just grew up in this church that loved us, and I think as a result I saw the love of God through that, and just to see all these people who would surround me and love me, and to know that there was something even bigger out there was amazing and humbling. And I think that has influenced a lot of who I am today, because I've been so impacted by these people.
Yeah. So with the 13 wells you've inspired and the 3 you've raised money for, that somewhere there are 16,000 people? What's that feel like?
I can't really explain exactly how it feels, just because it's unexplainable. I think that it makes me feel small a lot of times, just because there was that much need in the world, but it also makes me realize that God did that through me. So it definitely just lets me know that there are people in this world who needed something, and I gave it to them with God. It's just beautiful and humbling.
What advice would you give to somebody else who's trying to figure out where God's calling me, how I can be most useful to God?
If you feel something that you're strongly passionate about, a lot of times it's God telling you that you need to do that. So if there's something that just breaks your heart, it's time for you to fix it.
So many of us are looking for the burning bush or looking for the voice from the clouds, but you're saying it welled up inside of you, right? It was this gut level kind of thing.
It was definitely more internal. My parents it came out of nowhere when I was 11, and I saw this video on Facebook, and I came to them the next day, and I said, "Mom, Dad, look what I found, we have to do this." And it was definitely a big surprise to them, but I feel like there was a lot of internal stuff that led up to that.
How has Mom and Dad been helpful?
Well, they helped get me to my events that I need to go to, and so that's extremely helpful. Dad also, when I first started out, I was doing yard work, like raking leaves and shoveling snow, and he would definitely help me with that, because I do not have the strength of a 40-year-old man. And they've just also been really supportive of me and definitely helped with that.
So you've raised thousands of dollars, and it sounds like $10, $20 at a time?
For the most part, especially when I first started out, it was like maybe usually 100 at most for doing the yard work, and that was when they were being generous, because we did not do that well on their yard. We did as well as we could, but it definitely wasn't professional, and so it was probably worth maybe $10, $20, and I would be getting like $100 from these people, and so it was just a very good experience overall. But as I've progressed with the project, I think that people have seen the need more, and they've donated more because they've realized that there are these people out there that need their help.
Now you go and speak to other churches from time to time?
I do. I have lost count of how many churches I've spoken to and how many events I've been at. But I usually stay in Indiana. It's dragged me all across America though. And hopefully I will get to Burkina Faso one day.
One of the things I really like about your story is that it's so many of us wait for something gigantic that we can do, and yours is kind of these little steps that led you to something much bigger.
I went from this little 11-year-old girl who was doing these yard work, and I actually ended up like folding laundry and vacuuming for people, and so it started out very small, and then as my project progressed, people began to hear more about me, and so I started speaking at local churches, and then I started speaking at large churches, and now I'm speaking at events like this one.
Hey, you spoke today at General Conference in front of the global United Methodist Church. I mean, that's remarkable. You were being translated into how many languages? I don't even know.
And that's another thing that just, oh my goodness, I can't explain how that feels. it's something beautiful.
Tell me about the website.
Well, I have a donating website. It's revgo.org. And you can also donate to other student missionaries who are doing similar projects, which is really amazing. I've checked out a few of those. A lot of them are really cool. And then I also have a blog on WordPress.
Oh, give us that address.
Hannah Foust at wordpress.com.
And I'll put a link on our site for that, so we don't have to figure out how to spell it. We'll get it there. What kind of stuff do you blog about?
I usually just blog about whatever is on my mind. They're usually messages that I've done at churches and stuff. So, and then I also issues that have been on my mind for a while. I usually write about those. So that was another plan for me before I turned 9, was a writer, and so I think that I might incorporate that into mission work somehow.
Because your story needs to be told. I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you said. Anything else you want to share?
I think I'm good.
I hope you got as much out of that as I did. I admire Hannah and her courage to act now on the call of God on her heart. And it's my hope that she's inspired you as much as she inspired me to do the same. Be sure to drop by our webpage, umc.org/podcasts, and find the page for this episode. There you'll see a picture of Hannah chatting with me and links to her sites. This has been a special edition of Get Your Spirit in Shape from General Conference in Portland, Oregon. Thanks for being with us. I'm Joe Iovino from United Methodist Communications and UMC.org. Peace.